When I was a little girl, I used to love studying the maps. As an adult, not much has changed. I still love looking at maps. Whenever I used to study the maps as a young child, I always used to wonder about the group of streets just north of Butler. I would always wonder, why is that community cut off from the rest of the city of Butler? As I travel down East Brady Street on this balmy December day, I am going to explore the streets of the neighborhood known as North Butler. The main streets of this community are Wilkes, Cottage, and Valley Streets. North Butler sits in the valley. According to a map from 1941, there once was a church in the community of North Butler. However, I did not see any schools. The community has a coal patch feel to it. After spending 2 hours in the library, I didn't have much luck in finding out the history. It's obvious that North Butler was a planned community and the streets are laid out in the grid. After looking at Google Maps, I discovered that North Butler is actually in Butler Township, not Butler City. I am going to take a wild guess, but I really think these homes were built for workers of the Buffalo and Pittsburgh Railroad Yard. This was definitely a working class neighborhood because of all the wood frame homes. I didn't see any remains of the church. I'm not even sure what denomination of church was in this community. There probably weren't enough kids to warrant construction of a school. Back in the day, the children that lived in this neighborhood probably went to Institute Hill Elementary School, which is up near the hospital, or Bon Air Elementary School, which is across from Bon Air Plaza. Driving down this hill, you have a nice bird's eye view of the Jefferson Street Bridge. Whenever I was little, whenever my mom used to drive over the bridge, I used to look over and see all the homes on the hill and in the valley. I used to think, those homes are so cozy because they're nestled in the valley. When I was studying old maps, I didn't see any mines or oil wells. So that leads me to believe this must have been an area where the railroad workers lived. I could be wrong. When I have more time, I have to go back to the library and do more research. When I was at the library, I did learn a little bit about East Butler. Quote, Butler Land and Improvement Company purchased 640 acres of farmland, 2.5 miles east of Butler in 1895, quote. Today, East Butler would be known as an industrial park. Magnetics and Service Star were the chief employers in East Butler. East Butler is another community that is kind of difficult to find information on. Another thing that stood out to me whenever I was studying old maps, I didn't see anything on the map that resembled a general store. It seems like most communities back in the day had a corner store. I find it odd there was no corner store since the community is cut off from the rest of Butler. I am getting ready to make a left onto Delwood Road. If you lived up by the hospital before the Route 422 bypass was built in the early 60s, you would take this way to get to Center Township. Another option would be to drive up North Main Street Hill. Here I am driving under the Route 422 bridge. Up Up yonder is Zenith Road. That is a no outlet, but I do believe at one time it connected with another road, which is now known as Ox Cart Lane. Delwood Road runs parallel with Route 422. The homes along this road are all ages. There are wood frame homes that look like they were built at the turn of the century, a cozy Cape Cod, and some ranch homes that look like they were built in the 50s. Prior to the 1960s, this area was nice and quiet. Today, the hum of traffic from 422 can be heard. There's Ox Cart Lane. The road has a slight bend, and then you continue uphill. This road is a nice alternative to Route 422, and it's a nice back way to get to the mall. I can definitely get used to this mild weather. I can also live with just a dusting of snow on the ground, as long as it's not icy. I just want to be able to go hiking. As you crest the hill, you can see Bon Air Plaza. To the right is Bon Air Drive, and those homes were built in the late 50s, early 60s. Bon Air Plaza opened in 1950, and some say it was the beginning of the end for Main Street Butler. I believe Bon Air was the first shopping plaza in Butler. Next, I'm going to make a right onto Evans Road. The first time I drove down Evans Road was in August of 1993 whenever I was taking driving lessons with Herbert Elias. You want to take it easy on this road because it's very hilly and windy. The road is scenic because you go down into the valley. And this here is another great way to take to the mall. While you're watching this video, don't forget to check out my YouTube video on the Clearview Mall. I did the video in January, so I will go ahead and add it to the end. That way, if you're interested in watching it, you don't have to go through all my videos. You can just click on it. I try to make things easy for my viewers. As you crest the hill on Evans Road, you enter what is called the Hall Plan. The Hall Plan was built in the 1950s and 60s. It is one of Butler's premier neighborhoods. This intersection is Evans Road and Hendricks Road. So I'm going to go ahead and make a left on Hendricks to head to the mall. If you go right, it takes you down the hill, you bump across the railroad tracks, and it takes you to Route 38. I was on my way to the mall to meet up with a friend for lunch. There are some older wood frame homes along Hendricks Road. At one time, this was a farming area. Even today, in 2024, there are still a lot of wide open spaces along this road. Did you know where the Clearview Mall sits used to be a farm years ago? The Clearview Mall opened in October of 1981. And it was a big deal when the mall opened. There's a nice, beautiful farm field. Let's hope it stays like that for a long time. Okay, I'm coming up on the intersection of Glenwood Way. If you go right, it takes you to 38. If you go left, it takes you to North Main Street Extension. To the left, there's an apartment complex called Meadowwood. And coming up on the right is New Haven Court. It's an assisted living facility. The housing plan coming up on the right was built in 1995. Hendricks Road runs behind the Clearview Mall. Oh, speaking of Bon Air, Aldi's used to be a thoroughfare. Whenever I was 2, I knocked over a display of candy. My poor mom was so embarrassed. 40-some years later, she still wants to crawl into a hole over the incident. Sorry, Mom. I'm coming up onto the back entrance to the mall. So the anchor stores are Boscov's, Dunham Sports, Rural King, and Giant Eagle. Altitude Trampoline Park replaced Sears, which I worked at for many years. I actually got laid off from there in July 2016 whenever we closed for good. Store up ahead used to be TJ Maxx. They moved out to Butler Commons. Right now, TJ Maxx is a storage facility. And there's the infamous Giant Eagle sign. I remember whenever it opened up, it was Kroger's. This would have been fall 1982. It was Kroger's for a little bit, and then after that, it was Food Arena. And then sometime in the early 90s, it became Giant Eagle. I remember whenever Kroger's, which is now Giant Eagle, first opened, I was 5, and my mom said, "You stay with me, this is a very big store." I see Ponderosa. I used to love going there as a kid in the 80s. Now, my stomach could not handle that food. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.